I think you might just actually prefer having a boring life. Sounds a little ridiculous, right? But let me explain why. When's the last time you fantasized about a distant future of your own choosing that was a boring life? Probably not too often, right? We associate boredom, a boring life, with being like dull, uninteresting, unideal. The reality is, I think people that appear to have a boring life from the outside oftentimes have some of the most fulfilling lives that one could possibly have. And it's the people whose lives look extravagant, that their Instagram feed looks amazing, that they're constantly doing things and experiencing, things outside of themselves that appears great. It appears ideal, and it's the exact opposite. It's hollow. And you might be saying, well, I already have a boring life, Adrian, and it's not ideal. I don't want it. I want to move away from it. And I totally understand that. I've experienced the same thing where it's like, man, my life is boring already. I don't really want to continue doing this. But I think the problem is our boring lives that we've lived and experienced in the past, or maybe in the present, it's only unideal because the events that make up our life is not of our own choosing, right? It's not intentional. The job we're working isn't really intentional. It's not ideal. The house we're living in is not ideal. What we're able to do in our free time, or the amount of free time we have, it's not ideal. So yeah, a boring life is not great if it's not of your own choosing. But if you have a life that you intended for, and the events and the experience of your day-to-day life is something that you chose, all of a sudden a boring life can be fulfilling. It can be ideal. One thing I want to address is that, first and foremost, even if you're living an unideal, boring life, you're actually quite privileged. Because think about it, a lot of people in the world, when they don't have the amount of food that they'd like to have, that they don't have the level of freedom and free time that they'd like to have. They're constantly stressed. They're constantly working. They're constantly living an experience that they really don't want. It's painful, right? They don't know how to take care of their family. They're always in pain because they can't take a break, because they have to make the money. They have to do. It's like those people, they don't have a boring life, but it's certainly not ideal, right? So boredom is a privilege. If you find yourself being bored, it's actually a privilege. But when it comes to the idea of boring, it's a boring on the outside, from an outside perspective. I believe in living a more minimalist lifestyle. I'm constantly downsizing my clothes. I'm constantly simplifying my wardrobe. I'm constantly removing the things from my life that make it appear more eventful, that has a lot going on, but that doesn't serve me, that doesn't bring me value. And so for me, the more I simplify my life, the more boring it appears from the outside looking in, but it's actually more fulfilling, right? What if you lived a life of your own creation? The past few weeks, I've really been considering where I'm living, the city I'm living in, and just the cost of living and the lack of opportunity that I feel for me, what I want to do, what I want my life to look like. So I've been considering moving provinces across the country, another part of Canada. For a lot of people, it would seem like, okay, you're moving away from your friends and your family and the resources you have in a place that you grew up in. And for me, I'm always imagining my ideal lifestyle. And for me, in my situation, the kind of house I could buy here for $800,000, I could buy in another city, maybe Calgary or Edmonton, for literally half the price, for the same type of house. So I'm upping my quality of life. I'm decreasing the amount of stress, because I don't have to worry about how much money I'm going to be able to save and how much money is going to go towards this and that. Simplifying my life, de-stressing life. And the reason I think you may actually prefer a boring life is because a lot of the things that impede on our happiness, like our happiness I believe our happiness is always there. If you see somebody, or if you're experiencing a time in your life where you're not very happy, it's not that you don't have the happiness there within you. It's that there's too many layers of things impeding on it that are taking away from your happiness. Like worrying about paying bills, and worrying about how you're going to save, and worrying about the future. When you start removing the things that are impeding upon your life, it actually helps reveal your happiness. And so when you have a boring life, the people that appear to have a boring life, they really just oftentimes strip the things from the life that was unnecessary, that didn't bring value. It's a minimalist approach to life as a whole, not just on your items of clothes or the possessions you have, but like looking at your life holistically. Minimizing the events of your life actually can bring a lot of joy to it. When I go backpacking in other countries, it's only for like a 2 or 3 week period, because I have to go back to work. So every day is eventful. Every day is something novel. Every day is a new experience. And by the end of the trip, as much as I enjoyed it, I'm often burnt out because I'm just constantly going. Social events, seeing new things, going to museums. Every day is just packed full. And when people, when I go on that, I'm constantly uploading pictures and videos to social media. And so people say, oh, like that looks like you're living a dream. If that was actually my life, it wouldn't be a dream. It'd be almost a nightmare. Too much is going on. And it requires too much things outside of yourself. But I think the people that appear to be living a boring life where it's just like they're content with what they have, man, that's some of the most ideal life I've ever seen. And like, I'm not talking about, some people that live on like a farm and they're isolated and they're away from anyone, they don't socialize. I'm not saying that far. I'm sure they very much enjoy their life. But I think for most people, simplifying their life and considering being strategic with what they're doing throughout their day and what they want for their near and distant future would completely change how they experience life. If I consider what my ideal day looks like, again, from the outside looking in, it would appear boring, but it'd be the most fulfilling for me. It looked like me waking up in the morning. Think about this yourself. What's your ideal day look like? And how extravagant does it look? How exciting does it look? Or does it look more boring, right? Oftentimes our fulfilling life appears boring from the outside. For me, waking up after having 9 hours of sleep, right? Wake up, maybe read a book for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It would appear kind of boring from the outside. Spend 30, 40 minutes preparing a breakfast or a first meal with my partner, It doesn't seem that interesting when you zoom in and you look at it, but it's ideal. In the afternoon, maybe you go out for lunch, go for a walk, sit by a tree, just relax and think and just have some time just to reflect. Pull out a camera, maybe go somewhere, take photos, make a video, right? Have dinner, watch TV, watch Netflix, work out, maybe go to bed. Like, it's ideal, but because it's intentional. But from the outside looking in, it's boring. So I think if you actually consider what your ideal life looks like, it's going to be boring. But I think that's the key. Pursuing simplifying our lives, and asking ourselves, what do I want? Not what looks appealing on social media, because it's deceptive. It misleads you. Looking at other people's lives and judging how you want your life to look based off of how theirs appears I think it's a terrible way to go about designing a life that we want. The people that have the most exciting looking lives, it's hollow. It's often looking pretty hollow. If you actually talk to them and you actually get a more introspective understanding about what their life feels like, it's probably hollow. But those people that are living simple lives don't feel the need to be all over social media posting their dinner and the place they're going out to, and traveling and creating this image, this perception to feed other people. If you just, reflect and ask yourself, what do you want? What does an ideal life look to me? It might be boring, but I bet you it's going to be the most fulfilling. I bet you it's going to be the one you're most happy about. Because you're going to get there anyway. I think most people, when we're in our teens and our 20s, and maybe even our 30s for some people, we're trying to pursue what's out there. But then when you get to your 40s, for some people in their 30s and beyond, and you really realize and settle into what feels great for you, you realize, for the most part, it's uneventful. For the most part, it doesn't appear like anything special. But we realize that's what we want. A boring life, but the one that we designed. A boring life where it's not of our choosing, or that we're doing it out of circumstance. Yeah, those aren't our ideal. But when it's intentional, when it's a life by design, I think it makes all the difference. And I'm looking forward to creating a life for myself that is more and more boring from the outside looking in. Boring in its appearance, but fulfilling from within. So, I hope you got something from that. As I reflect and think about the life I want, I notice little takeaways that I wish I could express to the Adrian of 5 years ago or 10 years ago that wanted to plan and do all these things based off of what he's seen other people do. And let him know, like, hey, look inside and ask yourself, what's actually significant to you? What's important or valuable to you? And maybe I would have got to a place that I'm at now sooner, and the place that I'm going to. in my life. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll leave a playlist here of other videos I've created that I think you might like, and thanks for watching.